Hey everybody. Everybody is passionate about silver. It just blew up since middle of last week due to the Wall Street bets phenomenon. And everybody's been asking me my point of view on silver. So here is a video on exactly what I would do. People asking me, so how are you playing silver? What would you buy? How would you buy it? Would you use options? This video will address all of that. And the key question is silver a good investment? Does it make sense to buy? So as usual, let's talk silver and let's jump right in. Math, future money. Again, everything I do, I approach it with data and numbers to kind of manage risk and generate good returns. So big thank you for, again, all the support. Now, first of all, it's very important never to buy into a frenzy. There is crazy stuff happening all over the place. Everybody's talking about altcoins like XRP and Doge and all this garbage. I mean, playing with that is really literally playing with fire. You've got a very high probability you're going to get burnt. So I don't condone that type of behavior. However, sometimes there are certain frenzies that you can manage and you can jump into. And that's what this video is all about. So stay tuned till the very end to see the conclusion. So first of all, what's good about silver? Interesting. I had to brush up on my silver knowledge, and I bought a little bit of silver last year just as giggle, and I have a little bit of gold as well, but just for fun, not really as an investment or an asset that I expect will grow over time. But I just find it interesting. However, there are some good things about silver. First of all, it has the best electrical conductivity of all metals. This means its future is guaranteed for things like batteries and semiconductors and all sorts of electronics. It has a very high melting point. It's harder and denser than gold, cheaper than gold. And again, as I said, the future need is not going away. It's only actually going to become more popular. In fact, it's even used in things like sensor chips as well that things like Tesla vehicles need. So silver will always be needed. Now let's look at the actual use of silver today. This is kind of a little older graphics, about 2 years, but you'll see here's a couple of interesting places. Obviously, you've got your coins, but you have things like solar technology, photography, electronics, a huge chunk as well as in semiconductors and batteries, and that is only going to grow. Things like silver as a jewelry, I think, is probably going to dissipate over time because there's far better uses, but its conductivity is what makes it very important. So what's bad about silver? Well, it's manipulated. First of all, you have criminal enterprises on Wall Street that have been pleading guilty to rigging metal markets, gold and silver, for 2 decades. JP Morgan leads the pack, and you have a lot of the big hedge funds as well that sometimes play games behind the scenes. So if you are playing in silver, it's important to go in with your eyes wide open and understand that there are sketchy characters behind the curtains. So very important to know that as well. Now, the big question I get is, can the Wall Street Bets team short squeeze silver? So I don't think so. There's no shortage of big bullion silver. There is shortage of coins. You know, the silver dollars typically sold and how a lot of retail investors typically buy silver. Yes, they are out of stock of those things because of the demand over the last week or so. Another key thing to note is stock to flow drives the price. Trading silver can be dangerous. It tends to be a little more volatile than gold. And I think the volatility ratio is about 30% compared to gold at about 16%. Small investors, I don't think, can influence silver unless they really hit the futures in the big way. And the dealers typically hedge themselves to protect price. And it is said that about 300 metric tons of demand would be required in a very short amount of time to actually move the market. And that's a lot of silver. Can mention all of those coins. So can Wall Street Bets actually influence silver? I'm not sure. I don't think so. But let's, as usual, go a little bit deeper. Let's look at gold versus silver, because I think it's very important as well to compare the two because they have a lot of similarities. As usual, what I like to do is compare them based on how they perform. So if you look at the gold performance against silver over the last year, silver is actually up 64% compared to gold only up 19%. But let's look at what happened recently over the last 3 months. As you can see, the massive spike over the last week or so. And basically here, silver is up 22% over the last 90 days, while gold is actually flat or down by 0.5%. So keep that in mind when you go forward. So the big question I always get, is it possible for silver to break into the 30s? You know, there's people on chat rooms and Reddit boards saying, oh, silver's going to hit $1,000. I don't think so. But could it hit the 30s? Yes, maybe. It's possible. How would I trade silver? If it was the only asset class available to me today and I felt it was going to move, what exactly would I do? So I thought about this long and hard over the last weekend, and I came up with a few ideas. But as always, I like to protect myself because, again, this is very risky. This is very speculative. You've seen the spikes, and jumping in now in that frenzy is never a good idea. But there are some things you can do to protect yourself. Let's talk about those real quick. So first of all, quick price prediction. Where could silver go in 2021? And this is a simple little chart here that outlines, ballpark where it could go. So many believe it should be static in the range of about $25.50 up to about $28, maybe $29. But there could be big bounces, like into the 30s, as it did recently. So using that information, imagine that range of, say, 25 to 30 being the place where you want to play. What exactly would you do? The way I like to play, and there's so many questions regarding this, is how do you play silver? What do you buy? The most correlated asset I could find is an asset with the ticker SIVR, which is an Aberdeen silver index, and it's extremely well calibrated with the actual price of silver on the spot markets. So the 7-day return on this has been 5.5%. When the US markets fell by 3.5%. The 1-year return is about 48.6%. So it's not performing badly, but let's go check and see how well it's correlated to the actual price. And you can see here, there's almost perfect correlation between silver and SIVR. And I compared this to many assets, and there's tons and tons of ways of playing silver all over the world, but I found SIVR to be the most correlated, also with options that were the most fairly priced. And that's kind of the story here today, is what would we do? So, in my opinion, the best way to play this is what is called a bull-call spread. And again, this is a paper play, and the reason I'm sharing this with you all is so you can see how I would approach a problem, not necessarily a trade to do. In fact, I do not recommend this at all, and I'll talk more about why. However, what I would do in this case, the SIVR price today is $28.04. You could buy the call option for the $25 call option for September. Again, I like to buy call options out at least 6 to 9 months, so you have time to be able to do other things. And I'll explain in a future video what those other things are that are very powerful. But that would cost $6. So if you're buying the $25 call at a price of $6, your break even is $31. Now, to get some of that money back and play that range I just spoke about, you would sell the 17th of September $30 call, and they are selling at $4.25. You can see the premium on these is really high. This is all-time value, and this is out of the money by $2. And you can pull in $425 for that. So per contract, you spend $600, but you bring in $425 for a net debit of $175 for that $5 spread. Let's look at this a little more carefully as well. So the maximum risk you have, the maximum you can lose, is $175 per contract. And that is when the expiration is at $25 by September this year. The maximum return is $325 at a price of $30 at expiration. Okay, so making sure you're all tracking. Do you guys remember how much we put down for this trade if we were to do it in paper? $175. That's our net exposure. So the break even at expiration is $26.75. The price is now $28. So this trade, if all things ended right now, we would actually make profit from it. And that's the beauty of this type of structure. Again, you cap your upside. If it does explode to 35 or 40, you're capped. And there's ways of getting that back, which I'll share in a future video. But at the same time, you can play in that range, which is very important. Now let's look in detail right now as to how this would actually work out. So I have all the different prices across all the different weeks into the future. And you can see on this chart very clearly how much you would make or lose depending on the actual time and the actual price of silver. And that way you can assess your risk. You can see the biggest risk is basically when silver is below $25, especially towards the end of September. But I thought that was a lot of people were trying to find ways of exactly understanding how options would work, especially a spread and where the money is made or lost over ranges of both time and of prices of the actual underlying asset. So I hope that's all clear. And these models will be available to my Patreon people as well, because I know a lot of you want to dig in deeper. So let's make a conclusion. First of all, there is lots of magic you can do when you have this spread, and I'll go into detail more later as to what you can do. If, imagine you hypothetically got into this paper trade and silver bounced to $30. Well, you can do a roll up, and I'll show you how to do that in a future video. Also, what happens if the underlying asset falls? Well, you can buy your out of the money contract back, and then you can sell it again after silver bounces, if it bounces back. And it's been extremely volatile the last 2 days, the last 2 trading days. So bear that in mind. There's always good options. The other thing that I want to share with you all, because a lot of you are asking, again, what would I do? So if you just want to buy silver cold, silver was trading at, a very low price only 2 weeks ago. You could have bought it under $25. I think $24.50 is a very good entry point, which is actually on that little moving average line you can see there as well. So that's what I would look for. Again, my philosophy sometimes is to be that hunter in the trees that sits and waits and waits and waits. And, you could have bought at this price a couple of weeks ago. So just bear in mind that volatility can be your friend as long as you really know your entrance way ahead of time and put your limit orders in. And I think silver at $24.50 is a good price to enter. Finally, don't touch this. This is only for education purposes. This is not investment advice. I would not recommend getting into this trade at all. But everybody's asking about silver because everybody thinks it could go to $1,000, which is not going to go to $1,000. So again, don't touch it. So watch for the scammers. I'm the Black Bubble guy, very active in the comments. Big thank you to everybody. If you like this video, hit like, hit the bell for future content, a video every single day, and subscribe. Thank you, everybody. Hope this is helpful. Remember, silver is good to watch. There are very clever ways of playing it that minimize your risk, but at the same time, wait for that good entry point is what I would suggest. Take care. Thanks.